As you watch this, the world is changing. Billionaire investor Stanley Druckenmiller has called this the most uncertain environment for the markets in his 45-year career. Everything from the economy, inflation, equity markets, bond markets, interest rates, rapidly rising taxation, to the astronomical levels of sovereign debt amongst the G7 nations are all moving, all pushing us into a new paradigm and a completely new era. This new normal will be defined by a completely different set of rules than those that defined the 2008 to 2022 period. This past era began with a massive dose of monetary stimulus by central banks in response to the financial crisis back in 2008, and it ended dramatically in 2022 as central banks, which again had poured unprecedented amounts of borrowed cash into Western economies in response to the COVID lockdowns, finally lost control and rampant inflation took hold of our economy. This previous period from 2008 to 2022 was a wonderland, a panacea of financial mismanagement, in which investment performance was driven almost entirely by artificially cheap money, falling interest rates, and central banks willing to save failing businesses virtually 100% of the time, regardless if the specific business or even the entire business sector that it was in truly deserved to be saved based upon actual economic rules. For one thing, this next economic era will be far more Darwinian, far more difficult to navigate, far more unforgiving, and there will be an ever greater divergence between those that succeed and those that do not. There is no question that this divergence will extend to financial and investment advisors. I'm Neil McIver, founder and senior portfolio manager of McIver Capital Management at CG Wealth, and I'm going to help you to ensure that you're getting the right investment advice from the right people. Off the top, I will say that in my 30 years of experience advising clients and managing money in the capital markets, that I have learned that there are a very few excellent advisors. These are well-qualified and experienced individuals. And there's many very good investment advisors. Unfortunately, there's also a disappointing number of middling to very poor advisors. But as you can imagine, a buoyant investment market, artificially driven by central banks pushing cash into the system, have kept many mediocre and poor advisors in business. My goal is that you find an excellent advisor to guide you over the topography of this next economy, the one that we're already in today. Specifically, I'm going to provide you with the questions you need to ask and the answers that you should be looking for when researching a potential advisor to help you achieve your financial goals. These questions will certainly separate the wheat from the chaff. Get a pen. All right, question number one, the first question to ask. Are you a fiduciary? This is an absolutely critical question and likely the most important. Now, fiduciary duty is the highest level of care in English common law. That's the law that we live in Canada. It's the same selfless level of care that must be provided to you by your doctor, your lawyer, or your accountant. A fiduciary must work selflessly on behalf of you, the client, and your best interest 100% of the time, and be completely transparent about how they're compensated. Additionally, a fiduciary is legally responsible for the outcome or the result of the advice and services that they're providing. In the investment industry, effectively only portfolio managers may act as fiduciaries. The vast majority of advisors in the investment industry are not fiduciaries. This would include investment advisors, financial advisors, insurance salespeople, commission-based financial planners, mutual fund salespeople. These people owe clients a much lower standard of care called agency duty, or often referred to as sales duty. These people cannot lie, they cannot be disingenuous, they need to be honest, but they may also work in their own best interests and to their own advantage. A very good example of sales or agency duty was a few years ago when my wife and I needed to buy a new bed, and we went to a very well-known bed store. Now, all of the salespeople in there, including the manager, wanted us to buy this particular brand and model of bed.
We did, and we're very happy with the bed and the results. But dollars to donuts, there was a few too many of those beds in the back, and some extra commission was being paid to sell that specific bed to us. That's a very good example of agency or sales duty. Most importantly, in the investment industry, those with sales or agency duty do not own the results of what they recommend or advise you to do. On a regular basis, investors unsuccessfully try to sue their stockbroker or investment advisor or financial advisor when things go badly and they lose money. But you cannot sue someone with agency duty for bad judgment, bad advice, or bad outcomes. Because as long as they told you what they were going to do prior to them buying the position, then you own the outcome, not the advisor. None of this is the case if your advisor is a fiduciary, which is why I'm suggesting you ask this question. A fiduciary legally owns the outcome and the results of what they're doing with your money, just as your doctor, your lawyer, and accountant are all professionally and legally responsible for the outcome of the advice and services they provide. Now, if you had the choice between hiring someone who is not legally responsible for the outcome of the services or work they do for you and are not legally bound to put your interests first, versus a professional who is legally responsible for the advice they provide to you and is legally bound to put your interest first, which one would you choose? Well, hopefully the answer is obvious. Accordingly, the answer you are looking for to this first question is simply, yes, I am a fiduciary. Question number 2, can you tell me about the standard deviation of the portfolios that you manage? Now, if you get a blank stare to this question, run. This is an extremely important must-ask question because it separates those who understand financial risk management and those who do not. And this is because standard deviation is the standard professional measurement or metric used to measure the level of risk of an investment. If a potential advisor has no idea what the standard deviation is of the investments he or she is recommending or selling, or worse, does not even know what this term refers to, then quite simply, they have no idea how much risk they would be exposing your money to. You do not wish to deal with such advisors, period. The answer you are looking for is one in which they know the term and ideally know the exact standard deviation of the investments they are recommending. Then you can make the judgment if that's an appropriate amount of risk for you and your circumstances. Question number 3, do you have an audited track record of your performance? Seems like a basic question, right? If someone is looking to manage your money, at a minimum, they should at least have a track record. It's like asking a contractor what else have they built in the past and if you can see any pictures. But you would be surprised about how many investment advisors skate without being able to provide any audited track record whatsoever. A track record is critical to evaluate the performance of a professional advisor over time and through various types of market conditions. What you do not wish to hear from the potential advisor is a series of stories or anecdotal statements about positions they purchased for clients that went way up, or about some mutual fund they found that they bought for clients that did really well, or how all their clients love them. I call these fish stories because while they may be compelling and interesting, there's no objective evidence that any of these things are true or actually happened. But more concerning is the fact that if they're resorting to telling such fish stories, that they clearly have, in fact, no track record which they can provide you or they can publish. Accordingly, the answer to this question that you're looking for is, yes, I have a track record, and here it is. And ideally, these numbers should also state the standard deviation of the money they manage. You then at least have a baseline of information with which you can use to help judge the competency of what this potential advisor can do for you. Question number 4, do you offer or have access to any financial planning services or advice? This is absolutely important to know, and to know it up front. While you may not need any financial planning work done immediately, the chances are, if it's a good relationship that's going to last a long time, then you'll need some financial planning work along the way. Having access to professional planning is extremely important. In the investment industry, there is a very wide variety of financial planning options offered. Some are paid for separately, and the cost is based upon the scope of the planning work that they're going to be doing for you. Others are complementary with the portfolio management fees that you pay. But in my experience, most financial planning services are fairly priced, and if provided by actual professionals, are very valuable. So the answer to this question that you're seeking is yes, followed by a very full explanation of what they can do for you, who the professionals are, and how the cost is going to be handled. I'm Neil McIver. Thank you very much for watching. Please click the link below if you have any further questions or would like to meet with us.